Okay, so Peeps come back or Yami back?
Hello, everyone. Yes, hi. Sorry. I thought I
Okay,
turned off my mute, but I turned off my camera.
okay. All right, so then Peeps is here also? Let's make sure.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, okay, so let's start about review. So tomorrow you'll have the final exam for introductions to deaf identities and deaf cultures. There'll be 4 parts, and Christiane will help you with each part. Uh, Different parts, let's see. Yeah, four parts, and each part has maybe 12 to 13 questions. Okay, so let's start today. I think Peeb sent out some review questions about the midterm exam and deaf cultures. So let's go through that first. And we go through introductions to deaf cultures and identities, midterm test, part 1 of 3 parts. Do you have that already? I can show you on shared screen what it looks like.
I think they're opening it on their own screens. Renz is saying, hold on one moment, I'll open it.
Okay, no problem. So again, introduction to deaf cultures and identities, midterm test, part 1 of 3 parts. Do you all have it up now?
Oh, Marvin saying, sorry, I didn't realize we were doing that. One moment.
Okay, so if you open up your Word document, number 1, if an area has a sign language, A, it may have a deaf community. B, it must have a deaf community. C, neither A nor B. And D, impossible to answer the question. So when you do this information, you should think about Manila and Providence Island. So Manila has a sign language and it has a deaf community. Providence Island sign language has a sign language but does not have a deaf community. So what do you think the answer to this question is?
I see A. Most people are saying A.
Yes, A. It may have a deaf community. Manila has a deaf community, but Providence Island doesn't. So it may. Okay. If an area has a sign language, number 2, if an area has a sign language, A, it may have a deaf culture. B, it must have a deaf culture. C, neither A nor B. D, impossible to answer the question.
Most people are answering A.
Yes, A is
And Ren
correct.
says B.
So Providence Island has a sign language, Rents, but does it have a deaf culture?
Yes, sir.
No, no deaf culture. Why no deaf culture? Everyone.
Shaq is saying, Renz, you're the only one who answered B. You have to answer. Peeps, this is Peeps speaking. In Providence Island, there's no. Okay, well, spotlight. Shake the bed, Christian. All right. So at Providence, okay, Providence Island has no deaf culture because deaf people are integrated with hearing people. They're like ingrained in society, so they don't feel like they're separate, and that's the reason why.
Yes. So, Rents, do you understand that response?
This is Ren speaking. Yes. Sorry, I thought we were on number one, so I was. Yeah, I just had a brain freeze there. It was about Providence Islands, right? Right.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now, number 3, if an area has a sign language, A, it may have a separate deaf identity. B, it must have a separate deaf identity. C, neither A nor B. D, impossible to answer.
I see A's. I see A's. Everyone
Yes.
has A.
A, correct. Again, because Manila has, but Providence Island doesn't, or Bangkok doesn't. Now, number 4, if an area has a deaf community, it may have a sign language, it must have a sign language. Neither C, neither A nor B. So when you answer this question, you should think, where is there a deaf community? So there's a deaf community in Manila, but there's not on Providence Island. So if an area has a deaf community like Manila, A, it may have a sign language, or B, it must have a sign language.
Shaq says B. Then everyone
B.
else is answering B. There are
Everyone else
are answering B. There are some that are not answering.
Yes, B. B is the correct answer. So if you have a deaf community, you must, let's see, was it a community or a culture? A deaf community? Yes. How do people communicate? Through a sign language. Not every place has a deaf community though, but for those places that have a deaf community, then there is a sign language, must have a sign language. All right, number 5, if an area has a deaf community, A, it may have a deaf culture. B, it must have a deaf culture.
Jasmine says B. She's first to have her hand up. I see B. B. Marvin's asking what number are we on? Kyla's saying number 4. B.
Number
B.
5. Number 5.
Oh, I thought we were on number 4. Kyla's saying.
Well, the answer is the same.
Okay,
Number
5,
4,
right.
number 5, the answer is the same. If you have a deaf community, you must have a sign language. B, if an area has a deaf community, it must have a deaf culture. B.
Okay.
Number 6, if an area has a deaf community, A, it may have a separate deaf identity. B, it must have a separate deaf identity. Or C, neither A nor B.
I see B. I see hands B.
Yes, B is the correct answer. So if you have a community, there must be a separate deaf identity. Deaf people must feel they are separate from hearing people. Okay, number 7, if an area has a deaf culture, A, it may have a sign language. B, it must have a sign language. C, neither.
No one's raising their hand. I see Marvin saying B.
B, yes.
Jasmine saying B. Now people are raising their hand. B.
Right,
B.
right. For example, think about where you live. Let me get back to this question here.
Renz is asking what number we're on.
I think it's 7, right? Yes, 7. So Manila has a deaf culture, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Can you imagine everybody deaf in Manila communicating like this? No. Must have a sign language. Okay. Number 8. If an area has a deaf culture, whoops, sorry, this is misprinted here. A, it may have a deaf community. B, it must have a deaf community. C, neither, or D, impossible.
Shaq had his hand up immediately with B. Everyone now has B, B, B.
Well, okay, the problem is it should be A, B, C, D, but it's C, D, C, D. So which one is correct? Just read the correct answer. If an area has a deaf culture, then
So they're saying B. Shaq saying
yeah,
what number are we on? Wait, but Yami saying yeah, right, CD, CD. But I
yeah,
guess if it's in that order, everyone's saying B. If
yes,
we just change
yes,
it up.
yes. It must, if it has a deaf culture, it must have a deaf community. Yes. Okay,
Yes,
number
must.
9. Number 9, if an area has a deaf culture, it may have a separate deaf identity. That's A. B, it must have a separate deaf identity. C, neither A nor B.
B.
B,
Jasmine had her
correct.
hand up first. Nathaniel has C.
Yes. Number
Okay,
10,
now we
yes.
changed it to B.
Huh?
Nathaniel had C, but now he changed it to B.
Sorry, he had what?
Sorry, Nathaniel answered C for the last question. Now
Okay,
he
but no,
changed
no,
it to
B.
now he changed it to B.
Okay, B is the correct answer. Okay. All right, number 10. Where has more deaf people than Rennell Island? A, Martha's Vineyard Island. B, Providence Island. C, Boncour Village. D, all of the above. E, none of the above.
I see D. Mostly people are signing D.
Yes, D, all of, as in dog, all of the above. Because Providence Island only has one deaf person. Number 11, in the Solomon Islands, A, most hearing people sign. B, most deaf people sign. C, both A and B. D, neither A nor B.
I see C. I see B. I see a couple C's and a couple B's.
Okay. So, Solomon Islands is not Rennell Island. If the question was Rennell Island, the hearing people sign and the deaf people sign, the answer would be C. But in the Solomon Islands, only the deaf people sign in general. Would be B. What if I asked the question about Providence Island?
Providence Island would be C. Yami saying. Reg is saying both.
Yes, yes, yes.
And
What about Manila?
Um, B,
Yeah, it's B,
mostly,
both mostly deaf, yeah. So,
but I see
yeah.
C and A, different answers.
In Manila, most hearing people sign.
Oh, no, no, right. I thought you meant deaf, Yami saying, so I changed my answer to B. So
Yeah,
mostly B now.
okay. All right, so any question on the first part of the three-part midterm test?
Shaq, I didn't get the part about Manila. I'm wondering if we can go over that one more time.
Which part about Manila? Does Manila have a sign language? You have to tell me, you're in Manila, I'm not in Manila.
Yes, 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 right. B, B, right.
Right,
Okay. And Ray
okay,
is saying C. Ray is saying C.
so you go out on the street and you find many hearing people you can sign with? No,
Ray is saying no, no.
no.
Right.
So B, mostly deaf people sign.
B, B, I see.
Okay, okay. All right, so that answers everybody's question. Okay,
Yeah, yes, sir.
okay, let's move to uh, part test.
Marvin has his hand up.
Yes, Marvin?
I remember when we had our last exam, I
Mhm.
didn't know much about, part one. But now that when we reviewed it in Dr. Woody's class today, it's a lot more clear for me now.
Yes. I mean, uh, part one is very abstract. It asks you to make a generalization. But the way you make a generalization is you talk about places you know. Now, you talk about Manila. So how does Manila work? And then you talk about Providence Island or Bangkok Village. How does that work? And then you compare the two. So if the same in both places, like Providence Island has a sign language, Manila has a sign language, then both is the answer. But if Providence Island doesn't have a deaf community, has a sign language but no deaf community, and Manila has a sign language but a deaf community, then it's not must. It's not always, it's may. I don't know if that makes it more clear or not, but that's the way you need to answer this, this question. You need to know about, need to take specific examples, okay? And you don't have to go through all. You only need to take two kinds of examples. One is like Manila or Philippines, and the other is like um, Providence Island or Renal Island. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so if you get confused on the test, pick the two examples of Manila and Providence Island and then compare. Okay, all right,
Okay, sir.
all right. So let's go to, uh, hold on a second here.
Meng has her hand up.
Yes,
So when we read the sentence, if the area, okay, one moment. Okay, the sentence, if the area has a deaf culture and then blank, we have to put in either PI, Manila. So it depends on like, so that we don't get confused. So we have that basis of comparison. That's what you're saying,
yeah,
sir?
I think so. I mean, the idea is that,
So for example, if we have Providence Island, then if it's like Providence Island, then you answer that way. If it's Manila, then you answer it according to what Manila is. Because I was just really confused with the signing a little
okay,
bit,
but if you're making a
or
generalization, so if you say, if an area has a sign language, it may have a deaf community
May, yes.
or it must have a deaf community. So then you say, okay, what are places I know? I know Manila and I know Providence Island Sign Language. I know Manila has a sign language and a deaf community. And so I know that Providence Island has a sign language, but it doesn't have a deaf community. So it's not must. It cannot be must. Must means 100%. Okay. May is the answer. But if you take the question in another way, like if an area has a deaf community, it must or it may have a sign language. So you take all those areas that have a deaf community, like Manila or Vietnam or Thailand, and all of those have a deaf community and they have a sign language. So that's must. Okay. So
Yes, sir.
sometimes, you know, I think Marvin had some difficulty before understanding how to answer the question, if in a general way. I'm not sure that's true, but if it's true, then you need to talk about specific examples like Manila or Providence Island. I'm not sure that makes any sense. Marvin, that makes some sense to you now? Yeah.
Yes, sir. This is Marvin speaking. This is directed to Meng. I had taken the test before. Sorry, one moment. So Meng, when I answered before, I didn't have that basis of comparison. But now that I can put in the area and I understand what the area is all about, I just insert it because in the past I was unsure. Like I was really confused with the way the question was formed. But now that Woody talked about, okay, just instead of making it general, make it specific. It'll make it a lot more easier for you, Meng.
Right.
This is Shaq speaking.
Mhm.
Just to clarify, you just have to, in your mind, figure out what those areas uh, look like. Like, do they have a sign language? They have culture? And then that's when you can answer must, because if that Manila has a culture, it must have a culture. A deaf community must. Then it must be the same for the others that are similar to that. So if they have a strong deaf community, for example, just like in Manila, they have sign language, then the answer is must, right? So you just use the basis of comparison. So if it has a sign language, it has a deaf community, it has all these elements, like Thailand, Martha's Vineyard, Providence Island, Reno Island. What was the other one? AI. So you have to think: there are some instances where it's maybe, but then there are examples that you could drop on that are for sure must. So you just have to remember those examples.
Yes, yes. Marvin.
So yeah, there was a test where there was part 1 and 2 each had 6 questions, and it had the cities, Providence Islands, etc. And then they had countries, a section where they had countries where we're talking about sign language, yes or no. If that specific country had yes a language or a culture, if they had a deaf community, or if it was separated. So it was, remember that example with the part with the 2 parts with 6 questions each? Just remember that. No, Meng said it's 5 and 7. But you know what I mean. Yes, right.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the powerful things that you can do is to,
Yes, this is Yami saying, yeah, you just have to visualize it in your head for a moment. So again, you have to visualize it in your head and draw from that basis of comparison. That will
yeah,
help you with the
yeah.
answer.
Now this is a way of teaching and thinking. There actually two different ways. There's more than two, but there are two basic ways that many people teach or think. One is called deductive, Deductive. That means you start with a theory and then you go to specific facts that prove the theory. Okay? So you say, you start with those general facts like if there is a deaf community, there must be a sign language. And then you show examples of how that works. Okay? The other way of going is teaching or going or thinking is called inductive, Inductive. Inductive means you start with facts or data. So you say, well, here's Providence Island. What happens on Providence Island? Yeah, and then here's Rennell Island. Here's what happens on Rennell Island, and it's similar. But then we take Manila, and Manila is different, okay, and Vietnam is different. So you're starting from the facts, and then you go to a generalization that if there is a deaf community, there must be a sign language, okay? I prefer to go from inductive, to give you the facts, and then to generalize, okay, to help you think and generalize. So the fact is that Providence Island has a sign language and no deaf community. The fact is that Manila has a sign language and a deaf community. So, and then I want you to generalize. So if a community has, or if an area has a sign language, is it true there must be a deaf identity? And then you think, well, no, because Providence Island has a sign language, but it doesn't have a deaf community, okay? Or you think the other way, generalize. If an area has a deaf community, what about sign language? Does it have to have a sign language or not? And then you think, okay, well, what are some places that have a deaf community? Manila and Vietnam and Thailand, but not Providence Island, not Rennell Island. So then you make your generalization from the data that you have. Does that make, I may be confusing you. If I'm confusing you, just forget what I said. Okay? But just try to explain to you. So in the future, when you teach, you can start with the theory and then give examples. Or you can start with the data and then generalize the theory. Okay?
We'll do a switch interpreter.
Yes, okay. All right. Okay, so let's go to the second. Hold on a second here. Second quiz. Intro. Yes. Cultures. Sorry, I'm having trouble finding the file. Let me try here. Okay. If you go to the second place, the second part 2 of 3 parts for the midterm, then you'll see some very specific questions. So first question is, Providence Island has A, a sign language, B, a deaf community, C, both A and B, neither A nor B.
A. Everybody,
A.
mostly is saying A. Everybody
Yeah.
saying A.
Yes, yes. Okay, number 2, Manila. Manila has A, a sign language, B, a separate deaf identity, C, both A and B, D, neither A nor B.
C. Everybody
correct.
saying C. C.
B. Oh, so, I'm sorry, C, right, both A and B, sorry. Providence Island has A, a sign language, B, a separate deaf culture, C, both A and B, D, neither A nor B.
Everybody saying A, but Ray is saying C.
Okay, so does Providence Island have a separate deaf culture, Ray? Do they, deaf people separate from hearing people?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, so just has a sign language, but
So they have a sign language.
yeah, yes, okay, so that would be A. All right. Number 4, Manila has A, a deaf community, B, a separate deaf identity, C, both A and B, D, neither A nor B.
C. Most
B.
of them is saying C, C,
C, yes,
C.
C. Okay, yes, C.
2
Okay,
and Ming is saying number 2 and 4. They have different the same questions.
No, different.
Oh yes, I saw
All
it.
right. I mean, the answer is the same, but the question is different. Yes. So the reason why I'm giving you many different questions, some of whom have the same answer, is so you will see the relationship between sign language, deaf identity, deaf community, and deaf culture. Okay. But that's a good question, Ming. Looks the same, the answer is the same, but in fact, it's slightly different. Okay, number 5, Providence Island has A, deaf culture, B, a separate deaf identity, C, both A and B, D, neither A nor B. Careful.
Ray saying we're number
Raise.
3.
Number 5. Providence Island has A, a separate deaf culture, B, a separate deaf identity, C, both A and B, D, neither A nor B.
Yummy and Justin is saying D. I think Ray C.
Okay, who's saying C?
Ray is saying C.
Right. Okay, so Jasmine and Ming and Ray, fight it out. Which is it? I'm teasing you.
Jasmine saying I answered letter D. Shock is saying, can you explain it to me? Can you explain it to me, Ray?
Yeah, okay. I think
So letter
you need
C
to
is wrong. So Dr. Woody, Ray is asking, so letter C is wrong.
Well, I want somebody to explain. Well, Ray, why do you think C is correct?
Hmm. The Providence Islands have separate deaf culture and deaf identity.
So
So
deaf
meaning they
people,
are different.
so deaf people on
That's for
Providence
the
Island.
Providence Island. And for the, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure.
Okay, so Yami, what do you say?
Providence Island has separate deaf culture. Wait a minute. Okay, are you saying that both um, Province Island have separate deaf culture and deaf identity? No, they don't. Uh, because they're interacting with the hearing people, so they don't have a separate deaf culture. But if in Manila, yes, we have. The answer is C. You know why? We have a separate deaf culture, but in Province Islands they don't. So the answer is D.
Right.
Dr. Woody, am I right?
Yes, that's correct. Because you need to look at how you answer other questions. So if we go back to number 3, and we say Providence Island has number 3, has a sign language, B, a separate deaf culture, C, both A and B, D, neither A nor B.
A.
So A, so it doesn't
A.
have a deaf culture. If we go to number 1, and it says Providence Island has a sign language and a sign language, B, a deaf community, C, both A and B, D, neither A nor B.
A.
A, so it doesn't have a deaf community. So you answered that in number 1, it doesn't have a deaf community. So in number 5, you can't answer C, saying it has both a deaf culture and deaf identity, because you already said it doesn't have a deaf identity. And in number 3, you say it doesn't have a deaf culture. So it doesn't have either. So that's why D is the, D is the correct answer. Doesn't have a deaf culture and doesn't have a deaf identity. Okay, as Yami said.
Applause for her. Yeah.
Okay, so Ray, is that more clear now, or do you need more explanation?
Oh, good. Oh, good. Now it's clear now. So we have the
sorry.
one. For number 1, 2, 3. Did I get it right? That's for number 1, 2, 3. And now we are number 2, 4, and 5. Thanks for the
Yes.
support, Yami.
Okay, number 6. Manila has a separate deaf community, B, a separate deaf culture, C, both A and B, D, neither A nor B.
Chuck saying C, Yummy, and Pibbs. Oh,
Yes,
everybody's
C.
saying C.
Yes. Number 7, on Providence Island, A, most of the deaf people sign. B, most of the hearing people sign. C, both A and B. D, neither A nor B.
C.
Yes.
Is
And
everybody
that's,
saying C?
and that's why there's no deaf community, because hearing people sign and deaf people sign. Okay, is that clear?
Yes, Dr. Woody.
Okay. All right, number 8. Providence Island is in or near A, Africa, B, Asia, C, North America, D, Central America, E, South America, F, none of these.
D. Everybody saying
Correct,
D.
correct. D, Central America. Providence Island belongs to A, there's number 9. Providence Island belongs to A, Thailand, B, Solomon Islands, C, Ghana, D, USA, E, Colombia, F, none of the above.
E. Rance, Ray, Jasmine is saying, also shocked saying E. Yummy E.
Yes,
Marvin
E,
saying E.
yeah, Colombia, yes. All right. Number 10, Rennell Island is located in A, the Atlantic Ocean, B, the Pacific Ocean, C, the Arctic Ocean, D, none of the above.
Shang saying B. B as in boy.
Yes,
Also
yes, boy.
Ray,
Yes,
B,
B as in boy.
Yummy. Also saying B.
Yeah. B, sorry, B, the Pacific Ocean. Okay. And number 11, Vietnam has A, a sign language, B, a deaf community, C, both A and B, D, neither A nor B.
C.
C,
C.
correct,
C.
correct. Okay. Good. Now we go to the third part of the midterm. Okay. Okay. So 1, Manila has A, sign language, B, a deaf community, C, both, D, neither.
Jasmine saying C.
C,
Shocked
correct.
Yeah.
C,
Everybody saying C.
yes. Bangkor Village, number 2, Bangkor Village has a sign language, B, a separate deaf identity, C, both A and B, neither, D, neither.
A.
Yes, A.
A.
Yes, Bangkor
Meng
Village
is
is
saying
like,
C. Meng is saying C.
okay, is Bangkor Village more like Manila or more like Providence Island?
Oh, sorry. It's A.
Yes, yes, okay.
Said the same.
All right, so number 3, Manila has A, a sign language, B, a separate deaf culture, C, both, D, neither.
C.
C,
C.
yes, both, yes. Sign language and deaf culture. 4, Bangkor Village has A, deaf community, B, a separate deaf identity, C, both, D, neither.
Chuck is saying D. A is saying A. Rance A. Jasmine D. Meng is saying D. Chuck is
D is,
saying D.
D is correct because as a sign language, but no deaf community or deaf identity, the deaf people are integrated like on Providence Island.
Okay, right.
Right, okay. Number 5, Manila has A, separate deaf culture, B, a separate deaf identity, C, both, D, neither.
C.
C, correct. Number 6, Bangkor Village has A, separate deaf community, B, a separate deaf culture, C, both A and B, D, neither.
D.
D, correct.
Everybody's saying D.
Okay, good. Everybody's got it right. Okay, number 7, in Manila, most of the deaf people sign. A. B, most of the hearing people sign. C, both deaf and hearing, most sign. D, neither deaf people nor hearing people sign.
A. Everybody's saying A. No, Renz is saying D.
Deaf people
Ray,
don't sign? Deaf people don't sign in Manila?
what number are we? Are we Dr. Woody?
Number
Renz is
7,
asking.
yes.
What number
Most
are we
deaf
now?
people sign.
Oh, A.
A,
The
yes.
answer is A, right? A.
Okay, yes, correct. Number 8, Bangkor Village is in or near A, Africa, B, Asia, C, North America, D, Central America, E, South America, F, none of the above.
It's Asia, so letter B.
B, yes. Number 9, Bangkor Village belongs to A, Thailand, B, Solomon Islands, C, Ghana, D, USA, E, Colombia, F, none of the above.
It's in Thailand, so letter A.
Yes, correct. Bangkor Village is located in A, the Atlantic Ocean, B, the Pacific Ocean, C, the Arctic Ocean, D, none of the above.
D, none of the above.
Right, yes, it's in the interior of Thailand. Okay. 11, Thailand has A, this is all of Thailand, a sign language, B, a deaf culture, C, both A and B, sorry, and D, neither A nor B.
C, but Shak is saying A. The rest saying C. Shak, why? Why it's letter A? That's my answer. A. A.
Did Thailand have a National Association of Deaf People? Yeah, so it should be C.
Ah, okay. Okay, you're right. Letter C.
Right.
So
Okay. I mean, it's true, it does have a sign language, but it also has a deaf identity and deaf culture. Okay, any questions on the first, the midterm? 3 parts of the midterm? Okay, all right, so let's stop, take a break for now. And it's now 2:50 your time. Let's come back at 3:05 your time. Okay, you take a break. Okay, thank you. And then we will review the parts that we went over yesterday and see if you have any more questions. Okay, see you in 15 minutes then.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's pull up the sample study questions for the final exam and Introduction to Deaf Cultures and Identities. We went over this yesterday, and I'd like to go over it again to make sure you understand. In Roman numeral 1, it says we'll have questions like those on the midterm exam. So that's what we just finished going over, the midterm exam. So we're finished with those questions. And now we'll move on to questions about the medical and cultural model of deafness like those below. So in this case, you want to think, does the statement follow the medical model, the cultural model, or both, or neither? So the first state, did you all find, I'm going to make sure you all found this document, right? You have the document? Okay.
Yes, sir. We have the document.
Okay,
Oh, and
so
there's
I
some
will
people
read,
that saying no, I don't. Not saying no. Have. Sorry, he says I
okay,
have.
okay,
Sorry.
okay. If you have any questions, let me know. Number one, the statement that the most important thing about deafness is that deaf people use a sign language. Does that follow the medical model, A, the cultural model, B, both medical and cultural model, C, or does not follow either, D?
I see B, B,
Yes,
B.
B. So the cultural model would say most important is sign language, and the medical model would most important deaf cannot hear. All right, number two, the statement that deaf people have a medical pathology. Deaf people are sick. A follows the medical model of deafness. B follows the cultural model. C follows medical and cultural. D does not follow medical or cultural.
Everyone's answering A, medical.
Yes, medical. All right. The idea number three, the statement that deafness doesn't need to be cured. Does that follow medical model or cultural model or both medical model and cultural model or neither?
Everyone's saying B, but
Cultural model, right?
Ray says A.
Ray says A.
We're on number 2, right, sir?
No,
Or 3?
no, number three now. Number two is A, yes.
Right,
Number
B,
three,
B, sir. Right.
right, number three is B, yes. Okay. The statement that deaf people should be educated. Does that follow A, the medical model of deafness, B, the cultural model, C, both medical and culture, D, not medical, not cultural?
I'm seeing C.
Yes, C. Right. Number five, the statement, what's most important about deafness is that deaf people cannot hear. Is that A, follow medical model, B, follow cultural, C, follow medical and cultural, D does not follow either.
I see A's.
A,
Most
yes,
people are A. Yeah.
A, correct. Number six, the statement that deaf people need to learn to read. A, follows the medical model of deafness. B, follows the cultural model of deafness. C, follows the medical and the cultural model of deafness. D, does not follow either.
I see C's. Mostly C.
Yes, yes, C. Number seven, the statement sign language will damage speech. A, follows the medical model. B, follows the cultural model. C, follows the medical and cultural model. D, does not follow either model.
Mostly A.
Yes,
Everyone A.
yes.
Peeb says D. Peeb says D. Peebs. Joke. Sorry, I'm
Okay,
joking. I'm joking.
okay, okay. All right. So eight, the statement deaf people, well, let's change it a little bit. So we already asked the question about medical pathology. So let's say the statement that deaf people are sick. A follows the medical model of deafness. B follows the cultural model. C follows medical and cultural. D does not follow either.
I see A.
Okay, yes.
A.
And the next one we already asked, so we don't, number nine, we'll skip. And then number 10, I think we already asked this one too. Where is this one too? Sorry. Anyway, it'll be questions like this. The statement that deaf and hearing people need to learn each other's language follows the medical model of deafness, A, follows the cultural model, B, follows both, C, does not follow either, D.
I see A's. We're on number 11, sir, right? Ray's
Number
asking.
19, number 19. The statement that deaf and hearing people need to learn each other's language.
We're not doing number 11. Kyla's asking.
Number 11?
because
Yes.
we skipped 9 and 10, and now we're on 19.
Okay, sorry, it's my fault. You're right. Okay, so 9 and 10. Okay, all right, 10 doesn't need to be cured. Okay, 11, deaf people must learn to speak. Follows the medical model, cultural model, or both.
So I see A's, A's.
Yes, A. Thank you, Kyla. Number 12, the statement that deaf people need to learn to sign. A follows medical model, B follows cultural model, C follows both.
I see B's.
B, yes. Number 13, the statement deaf children should be sent to doctors for treatment. A follows medical model, B follows cultural model, C follows medical and cultural.
I see A's.
Yes, A. Number 14, the statement deaf people cannot integrate because they have a problem. A follows medical model, B follows cultural model, C follows both.
I see A's.
A, correct. Number 15, the statement that deaf people need to learn to write. A follows the medical model, B the cultural model, C both medical and cultural.
I see C's. C's.
Yes.
And I see Marvin D.
I think should be C. I think both medical and cultural want deaf people to write. The difference primarily is whether people want deaf people to speak, which is the medical model, or to use sign language, which is the cultural model. But everybody wants people to read and write. Any questions about that? Okay. Number 16, the statement that deaf children should have contact with deaf adults follows medical model, B follows cultural model, C follows both.
I see B's.
Yes, that's correct. Number 17, the statement deaf people cannot integrate into society because society has a problem. A, medical model, B, cultural model, C, medical and cultural.
I see Phoebes. Everyone C except Ray with B, and now he's changing his mind to B. So everyone has B. And Meng has C.
I mean, maybe, but I think that most people, most hearing people would say they don't have a problem. You have a problem as a deaf person. Whereas many deaf people would say, we have difficulty integrating because society doesn't accept it. So I would say, you say B or C for that one?
So everyone's answering B now except for Meng, which is the lone C.
Okay. Okay, we can discuss this more. I think it's more B, but what do you all think?
Yes, sir. I think it's B. Most people are saying B. It's a cultural perspective.
Yeah.
Because Yami's saying because there's the perception is that the society that has a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you see number 14 and 17, they're similar.
Yeah. But 14 is more like deaf people have a problem. And then 17 is more like a society doesn't accept deaf people. So society has a problem.
Right, sir.
Okay. All right. So number 18, prayer will cure deafness. A, medical model, B, cultural model, C, both medical and cultural.
A.
Yes, yes. And then number 19, which I jumped to before, sorry about that. The statement deaf and hearing people need to learn each other's language. So that would mean deaf people need to learn written language, and hearing people need to learn sign language. Medical,
see-
cultural, or both?
I see mostly B.
Yeah, B, medical, cultural model. Most hearing people don't think they need to learn to sign. Okay, number 20, deaf people are not sick. A follows medical model, B follows cultural model, C follows both.
I see B's,
B,
mostly
yes,
B.
correct.
B.
B, yes, okay. Now we come to the final kinds of questions, which we will ask you, give you a statement, and then ask you if it belongs to which of the four systems primarily. And as we said yesterday, when we have verbs like want, like, prefer, think, all of these generally relate to belief systems. So deaf people tend to marry other deaf people. Sorry, number one, deaf people tend to marry other deaf people, or many deaf people marry deaf people. Is that linguistic, social, belief, or technology?
Ray
So what
saying
happens?
B.
B, social, yes. What
Social.
happens? They marry. Number two, deaf people want to marry other deaf people. A, linguistic, B, social, C, belief, D, technology.
I think most people are saying C.
Yes,
Belief.
want. The key word there is want or prefer. Okay, number three, Filipino Sign Language uses SOV and SVO word order, while English uses only SVO word order. Which of the four systems?
I see A. Linguistic. A.
Yes, yes, A, linguistic. Okay, deaf people prefer doorbells that use lights. Again, prefer, want.
So it's prefer. It's a belief. C. C.
Yes, yes,
C.
C. Yes, exactly. That's a good way to analyze it. Next question, deaf people use doorbells that use lights.
Ray has his hand up.
Yes, Ray?
So when we say prefer in sign language, how do we sign prefer? Sorry, prefer.
I don't know in Filipino
Different?
Sign Language. Hold on a second. Prefer, or like best, or prefer, yeah.
It's kind of like favorite. It's like a
Yeah,
favor
yeah,
to favor something.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So interpreter is
Okay.
asking what sign are we going to use for this one? Prefer, okay.
Okay, all right. Deaf people use doorbells that use lights.
Technology. D. D.
Yes, yes. Deaf people don't mind having deaf children.
It's a belief. So Meng says
Yes,
C. C. C.
belief,
C.
C, yes. And last one, deaf people in Philippines interact with people who know Filipino Sign Language.
Jasmine saying B. Ray
B,
saying
correct,
social.
correct.
B. 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 B.
Be social, yes. Okay, now if I said deaf people in the Philippines prefer to interact with people who know FSL, want to interact.
Belief. It's a
Yes,
belief.
belief. And deaf people in Philippines use FSL when they talk with people?
Society, and Yami saying technology.
Okay, I would say linguistics, but I would accept technology for that one too. Okay, those will be the kinds of questions on the test. So you're still ready to have the test tomorrow?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay,
Shaq saying, let's do it now. Oh, no, no, no. Let's do it tomorrow.
well, if you want to do it now, we could. But I think you need to, better to review.
Ray has his hand up.
Yes, Ray?
So the 4 systems are included in the test tomorrow, sir?
Yes, all of those kinds of questions that I just asked are included on the test tomorrow. Yes,
Ooh, okay. That's clear.
yeah. But that's why I wanted to review again today and ask you if you make sure. So Yami wants to take the test now, huh?
No, Yami's saying, it's Shaq and Renz that wants to take the test now.
I'm just teasing.
They're so brave. But it's poor Christian because he's not ready yet.
Oh, I think Christian's ready, so, but I think it's better for all of you to spend a little time reviewing and getting a good night's sleep too. Okay.
Okay, sir.
All right. So then that's all for today. Let me talk with you a little bit about tomorrow. So tomorrow we will give the test. It will be in 4 parts, and each part with about 12 to 14 questions, 12 or 13 questions. Okay. Total of 50 questions. Okay. Now, what do you want to do after the test tomorrow? You want to review for the final exam in deaf histories, and then we take that when you come back? Or you want to just leave, not do any review tomorrow? We just do the test and then we finish. And then when we come back, we'll review for the final in deaf histories and then have the exam.
Let's
Which
do the
do you-
review. Yami's saying.
Or
We'll do
tomorrow review?
for after the test. We'll do the review.
Okay.
So Shaq has a question.
Yes.
Sir, just to clarify, for the final exam, so you wanted us to, after the exam, review the final exam right after what we take it when we take it tomorrow. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, we can go through the questions on the final exam that you take tomorrow. Okay, the question I'm asking is, after we do the test and go through the question that were on the test, do you want to continue reviewing for the final in deaf history, or do you want to do that after you come back?
So, okay, now yeah, Jasmine is saying let's just save it for next week. Yami saying, I understand. What I want is, let's take the test. And then we'll just use whatever time is left just to review, just to talk about it a little bit. But we're saying, but it's a holiday, right? Yeah, so let's keep it fresh.
Okay, so tomorrow is a
So-
holiday then. Yeah, but you still want to take the test tomorrow.
No, they're saying after that is the holiday, but now there's a discussion on what to do because.
All right, Well- yeah. I'm happy to stay online till you decide, or you want to think about it and then decide tomorrow. It doesn't matter. But when do you want the test on final exam for deaf histories? You want that on, hold on. The 3rd or the 4th or the 5th?
Fourth, on the 4th, sir.
Okay, okay. Let me put that down.
The
Okay.
3rd is still holiday. Yami saying.
Okay, but do you want to have a review before the test? So we could review on Wednesday, the 4th, and the test could be on Thursday, the 5th.
Ray saying that sounds good. There's other chatter here.
Okay. Okay,
So
then,
we'll keep it the 4th. Hold on. This is Jasmine. One moment. Everyone pay attention. Make sure you don't miss this. Dr. Woody asked if we can do November 4 is a review, November 5 is the test. Or tomorrow, once we are done the test, we do the review and then do the test on November 4th. So what do you think?
and Jasmine, there's a third choice. Review tomorrow and the 4th and take on the 5th.
Okay. So I guess they're taking a vote. Yeah, me saying let's just follow the schedule of the 4th. It was already set. But yes, we'll do the review then when? Tomorrow after the test or on the day? So most answers are tomorrow. We'll do the review tomorrow so that we can take the test on November 4.
Okay. Now, if you come back on the 4th and you go, oh, I forgot everything. Okay, then we can review on, if the majority want to, we can review on the 4th again and take the test on the 5th, okay? But we can plan now to take the test on the 4th if you want, that's fine.
We'll do an interpreter switch.
Okay. Maybe in time for the interpreters to go home. Okay, so any other questions you want to talk about, either for the test tomorrow or about the final exam in deaf histories?
Renz.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Renz is asking if it's possible to just take everything tomorrow, the deaf histories and deaf culture test, if it's possible.
Oh, yeah,
Maybe
it's
you can do
possible.
it.
But everybody
Shaq
would
is
have to
saying,
agree to do that.
Shaq is saying, maybe Renz, you can do it tomorrow. Only you can do it tomorrow. Gibbs is saying, we still
Yeah.
have 1.5 hours. Maybe you want to review or maybe you want to study about the deaf history. That will be tomorrow. Or
Yeah.
so we can have the exam, both exam tomorrow. And in number 5, we will start a new course. What do you think? No, Jasmine is saying no. We are decided. Tomorrow will be the deaf culture identities, and then the exam will be next week. The other exam will be next week.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
Pibbs wants to stay and review alone. Jasmine is saying.
Well, one thing, I don't want to give the test separately. Everybody should take the test at the same time unless they're sick. Otherwise, I have to make 2 of everything. So it's hard to do that. So I prefer you all take the test at one time.
Darn.
Yami, are you sure you want to take it now?
We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time left, Dr. Woody.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Patrick. Beebs.
But who wants to have a deaf culture exam now?
I just see 3 hands up, 4 hands up. Half. 5 hands up,
So-
4 hands down.
Okay. All right. Sorry, can't change. If everybody agrees, then I will accept. Okay, so go have a small glass of wine and get a good night's sleep.
Oh, I think, sorry, I missed that. Sorry, I missed that. I didn't
I
see.
missed it too. Sorry.
Yeah, so again, I'm seeing these blurry hands.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah. So as you can see, just an indication of our readiness with Mang and Ray with all these questions. I don't think we can take the test now for those who are saying we should take the test now. If we fail the test, are you fine with that? I think we need to have more preparation time. So I hope you understand that there's some people that just need to prepare more.
I think that's fine, and you should all agree on what you want. A lot of times, we want to rush things, but maybe we don't do as well when we rush things as when we take a bit more time. So it's since we already discussed having the test tomorrow, I think in general, unless everyone agrees to change to today. So if some people don't want to change to today, I think we should follow what we decided on and have the test tomorrow. Yeah, Mike.
Okay, yes, Dr. Woody.
Yes, okay. All right. Patience, it'll be over with soon. That's
Yes,
a good
Dr. Woody,
sign,
that's
all the way
right.
from the forehead down. Maybe you want to go from the back of the head up to the front of the head. Okay, all right. So let's check with Christian to make sure he will have the test ready tomorrow. I believe so.
Patrick's saying he's so busy because he has all these screens open,
Yeah.
probably. Okay, they're all trying to figure out where's Christian. He's with Miss Techi right now. They're on video call with Miss Techi. Hold on. Nathaniel's getting him or getting his attention. One moment. Christian's just in the other office with Miss Techi.
Okay.
So what are we doing now? Nathaniel saying.
Waiting, just waiting for Christian to confirm that there's no problem with the test tomorrow. So I think you all can go now until you don't need to wait for Christian. Maybe Peeps needs to stay in case there's a problem. And Peeps can notify everyone.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Jasmine?
Sorry, she was trying to get Nathaniel's attention, but he just left the room.
Oh, Christian's here.
Okay, Christian's here.
Yes, Sir
Okay.
Woody. Was it?
Yes. Christian, the test, the final exam for deaf culture and deaf identities, 4 tests ready for tomorrow?
Yes, Dr. Woody.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. So then everything
Part
is set
one.
for tomorrow. Thank you, Christian. Thanks to the interpreters and thanks to everybody for being patient. Okay, so see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.